Thanks for hanging around. Let's have a look at this. Hello, welcome. If you remember last time, we've got the engine out and the frame's been hanging here patiently while I've been messing around and going on holiday and doing some work and some other things. But it's still waiting here, so we'll keep having a look at that today, I think. I'm going to give it a clean now, although it's pretty clean. I'm going to give it a check over if there's any more damage. And also, because it had quite that whack at the front, we're going to take these bars off, take the yokes out, disassemble the headstock assembly, see if there's any damage gone on in there. It seems to work okay, but we've got to have a look at it. And I don't know if that yoke or stem is bent, but we'll look at all that, make it clean, and that will be good. So let's do it. Just before we get started, I thought we'd have a quick look over the engine, because we didn't really look at it when we took it out. It's all in quite nice condition, bit of corrosion on it that needs polishing, but otherwise very clean actually. We'll get these cases off for a good clean and polish. Better order some gaskets for those. Nice and clean in the sprocket area. I haven't done any cleaning up on that at all. That's exactly as it came. Just a bit of dirt down here to look at. There's the back of the engine, a sight you'd usually never see. Lovely big castings. And for 7,000 miles on UK roads, it's in very good condition actually. The finish is very good. Again, just these cases will need looking at. I have found something damaged, but I'm not going to do anything about it. And I'm going to show you now. So this is the heel and toe shift lever I got to replace the bent standard gear change. But if I pull this off, you can see the original accident has just bent slightly the end of the gear selector shaft. Not much. Just a couple of degrees, and you can see the witness mark there where the end of the original lever has left a mark on the splines. So it's just very slightly been bent upwards. But the replacement fits on perfectly well, and the bend isn't really obvious. I think I can just see it, although it seems to be more obvious when you actually look at the just the shaft. But that component goes right through the engine, right into the gearbox, and that's a massive disassembly job. So unless a very good reason comes up, I'm not going to mess with that, because it all seems to work and the gearbox works fine and it's not leaking oil. So we won't talk any more about that. Shh. Have a look inside the induction throat. You can see the fuel injection port just at the top there, where it sprays the fuel in. And the inlet valve is just there as well, look. There's the exhaust port. You can see the exhaust valve in there. Obviously I can't hang this around the handlebars now because I'm going to take them off. So we've just got to rejig how this hangs. The ceiling's still up anyway. Obviously you've got quite a few things on these bars and they need to come off anyway, so I'm going to strip the controls and take all these off because there's a lot of stuff just hanging around, and we don't want to damage it now or even just have it in the way. Right, I'm going to start on this side with this bar end weight, and I know these can give a lot of trouble because they Loctite them in. So I'll use my best Allen wrench. Make sure it's seated as firmly as possible. And then we'll strip it off. No, let's see what happens. Oh, that happened. There we go. I thought that was going to be drama. Perhaps someone's had this off already. Again, if you remember the fork bolts were bent, I can tell this bolt is bent. So when it's had its massive crash, and that's solid metal, not plastic. So when that's had quite a whack. It's been hit so hard that it's bent the, can you see that? It's bent that bolt. So that's why it didn't give me any trouble. Now, funny enough, these are exactly the same as the Meteor ones, and I've got two perfect Meteor ones, although I'm going to put bar into mirrors anyway. So that's completely moot. So let's just get rid of that. Now, on the Meteor, we got this grip off with a tiny spray of oil and a flat blade screwdriver. So we're going to see if that trick works again. Right, I got my high performance penetrant spray. Very sadly, that one's been damaged, look. It's just torn the edge. But I can get these for a couple of pounds anyway, so it's not too bad. Right. Let's waggle that up there. Try a bit of spray. More waggling. Okay, screwdrivers all the way in. A bit more spray. Just in case we're lucky, I'm going to give that a spin and see if it'll come off. Well, that'd be hoping a bit too much, wouldn't it? I think it might be a case of if we can just get it to move a tiny bit, it'll come off. Okay, so it's moved a tiny bit. Yeah, here we go. Well, hey, nice and clean. Like I said, no good, torn on the end. But I could put it back in and point it towards the ground, and no one would ever know, would they? I'll get a new one. Okay, the left-hand control, very simple. Just 2 screws underneath. There's going to be a lot of wires though. Where is it? I know it's there somewhere. There it is. There we go. There's a locating pin, just like the Meteor. There's a corresponding little pin there, look. It fits into that hole, so it's always in the right place. If you've ever had some old bikes, you'll know you've sometimes been chasing the controls around the handlebars if they spin round. Just pop those screws in. And the inevitable one that drops out. Now, where are those wires going? Those wires are going down to the bundle behind the headlight. So, probably not going to disturb that because I'll probably just bundle it up in a minute. So we've got 2 other wires coming up to the clutch perch. One of which will be the clutch switch, which tells it the ECU when you've pulled the clutch. And the other one is the 5-volt supply to that USB power supply that just lives under here. So I'm not going to disconnect that from the clutch perch. I'm just going to do the bolt underneath. 8mm? I think it's 8mm. Crikey, that's tight. Am I going the right way? Yes. There we go. Hopefully this will slide off the end. I should be able to pull out the whole clutch cable. Actually, what I'm going to do is because those wires keep it to the bike, I'm just going to line up the slots. A slot in the lock nut, a slot in the adjuster, and then the cable comes straight out. Turn it 90 degrees. There we go. Clutch cable disconnected. That can all come out. Okay, right hand side. Now this side wasn't damaged or bent. So I'll have to see what kind of fight this puts up. Okay, it's really tight. I don't want to strip this off. Right. Ooh, that's okay. Oh, there we go. Very tight, but didn't strip. So, no problem with that side. But still, with bar end mirrors, it's not going back on. So, off to the pile of unused junk it goes. Let me know if any of you need one. You can have that one. Grip on the right side, of course. Goes over the throttle tube. So we don't have to do anything crazy with that. Just remove the 2 screws from underneath. Where's the other one? I know it's here somewhere. Is it that one? I dropped it, so it must be important. No, that was just a little clamp that holds in the throttle cable. I'll show you that now. So those 2 wires there are the brake light switch, which you can just hear clicking. And they're impressively tight. I need a little pair of pliers to get them off. One. God, it's tight. 2. Right, that's 3. There we go. Throttle cable just sits in the end of that little loop. And when you turn it, pulls your throttle cable around. And again, it's got a locator peg that fits in a hole under here, so the whole thing doesn't go spinning around when you ride. Right, I'm going to pop those screws back in before I lose them. Now, I don't think I've got enough length to slide it off, so you won't worry about that. We'll undo the bars and we'll do it then. Don't worry, that ratchet strap's not going around the bars. It's not going to be a big comedy moment. Although I'm sure that there'll be plenty of those. And there it is. Nice chrome clamp. And the bars. Are just going to pop out. There we go. Got a very narrow spread. And they fit into those nice serrated sockets. We'll have a look at these in a sec. Right after I find that washer I just dropped. Right, so yokes are free. They seem to be smooth. The top one's slightly loose on the stem, but you kind of expect that. Tuck that there. Let's grab it from the bottom. It seems smooth enough anyway. Though I think it might be catching up under here, which I did notice earlier. probably either when they broke the steering lock or they fell off it. Well, you know they did all those things. There you go. If you look up here, this is the shroud that the steering lock goes into. And you can see where they've bent it. Probably trying to break the lock off, I imagine. But you should be able to bend that out. We'll have a closer look when we take the top off now. Somewhat unusually though, the Interceptor's got it as well, I think. They've got this clamp bolt that goes around the top yoke. Very tight one, obviously. Just move that. God, that is super tight. Whew. There you go, nice chunky top yoke. No special serrations or anything. Just a nice tight fit on the top. There you go, have a look at the top there. So this is going to be the top retaining nut for the whole steering stem. You can see when they stole it, they've damaged this locking shroud. Or bent it. I'm not too worried because I can just bend it back. But you can just see they've left this is just a metal dust cap. But where they pushed it in has just damaged the end of that dust cap. And also as I'm turning it, just as it gets to here, there's a little notchy feeling. I know there almost is because of this damage catching on it, but it's not that. There's something else making it feel a bit notchy. So essentially this should be a big nut that's holding the whole steering stem together. It shouldn't be that tight because it's only just squeezing the bearings together. So if you give that, there we go. Off she comes. Now, there's going to be a lot of balls in a minute. God, come on. There we go. Nut. Cover cap. You can see where that's been damaged. That's quite fixable. Not worried about that. Jesus. That's okay. Metal washer with a rubber seal to keep the grease in, no doubt. Better get these on in the right order. might not be balls, it might be a roller bearing top. That would be nice. Right, I might need to push this stem out now. Here it comes. Let's get that rubber mallet again. Here we go. It's balls, everyone. It's balls. Nicely creased. There's the top race. We'll look at this all in a sec. And I'm going to slide this out gently. There we go. Another set of balls at the bottom. Nicely held together with grease. They may be contained within a race which holds them all together. Yes, looks like they are, so no need to panic too much. Honestly, what will sometimes happen is those balls, they're just loose. So as soon as you unclamp it, and if they're not greased, they could go everywhere, and you have to sort of chase around and find them. Sometimes you take a bike to bits, and someone's lost some ball, and they just haven't bothered to do anything, and put it all back together. But this is very nice. Let's have a look at those top bearings. Yes, all those balls have been squished into this nice pliable. There's the underneath. So that's looking upwards. Just feeling for any damage on that race where the balls run. The lower race. That's taken the whole weight of the bike at the front. Right, I've got a semi-flat surface, as flat as I can get in my workshop without a proper engineering bench. But for all intents and purposes, this metal beam is, well, it's straighter than anything else I've got. What we're going to do, we're going to have a look at this yoke assembly to see if it might be bent or damaged. Now I've tried a straight edge on the shaft. And I think I'm happy that this is not bent. There's no gaps under it. Seems all right. It's a bit hard to tell if it's perpendicular to the casting, because obviously there's not really a datum, a very good datum to measure off without a lot of excellent tools and things. But there is one good and pretty definitive test. So if I lay this on here, hope you're all staying in focus, and I hold this against this machined surface, so not down or up, but just as the fork would be, really, but against this top edge, and I roll it forward, that should all touch at the same time. And it does. Perfect. I'll try the bottom edge as well. bottom edge, which I'll slowly show you now, is bent. So we've got our yoke rolling on the flat edge. Just going to pop this in and hold it exactly as the fork would be, and just roll it round. Try and keep it parallel. There you go. So that's perfectly straight in relation to the steering stem. Beautiful. And I'll show you the front side. You can see it's just very slightly. You see the gap at the front of the ruler. So the back side is straight. Front side is a tiny bit out. As I said, the front side will settle, will pull straight when it's fitted, although we may look at that. Now, let's have a look at the far side, the side that was crashed. Right, do you see that there? The front touches, but we've got a gap at the back here. Let's do the front. So the front edge, yeah, pretty much the same. So we've got about 1 millimetre under the ruler at the back. So there we go. This side, the side that wasn't bent, is great, straight. This side is bent backwards, which is pretty much what we'd expect because this is the fork that was bent backwards. It's not a lot. I'm not sure it would present a problem. We're going to try and fix it, don't worry. But it's not grotesquely bent. You just need to pull this up, basically. Now, how are we going to do that? How indeed. I have no idea how this is going to go. I've clamped that in my vise, and obviously I've kept the jaws away from the thread. I don't want to use some comfort packing to prevent scratches because I want to hold this really securely. And if the vise leaves a few marks on this shank, it's not a big deal because hopefully no one will see it again. So this essentially is bent backwards, and I just want to bring this round. Now, I've seen on the internet, because I've never done this before, what you can do is actually use the old fork legs. This is the bent fork leg. And we're hopefully going to try and use this as a lever. And bend this round. As is usually the case, this will either go really well or really not. Now this I think is threaded on this shank. It may spin round, so we may need to invent something here in a minute with wooden blocks to hold this yoke. But hey, I've got a whole other fork leg yet. Right. Right, well it moved. I don't want to go nuts. Let's try it on the table. Okay, gap is still there. Is it smaller? maybe. Either way, it's not fully there. And I'll pop it back in the vise, and I'm going to do this bolt up a little, because there's quite a bit of play in this, and I want to make sure I'm pulling all of it. Right, let's go a little bit more. Right, hopefully my vise doesn't snap. Difficult to know how hard to pull this. I think the leg might get involved again. Right, that yoke's moving. I thought that might happen. Right, let's try that anyway. Right, back with a straight edge. Is that it? Got to be careful not to make the ruler do what you want. And hold it flat against this flange. Well, hey, is this it? Double check, triple check. Right. Well, hair's width, that seems straight. Let's double check the other end of the ruler. Might be a very tiny bit. Let's try the front. Can you see that? That's perfect. That face is perfectly parallel to the steering stem now. And to be fair, it wasn't a lot out. But still, straight has got to be better than bent. It's a tiny, tiny hair's breadth at the back. Let's give it one more little tweak. Steering stem, straight edge. Right, front edge, if anything, there's a tiny hair's breadth of light under the front. So the front edge has gone too far, but I'm not worried so much about the front edge because the front edge is flexible because it's not secured at the front. The back edge is what I want to be straight. Look at that. Perfect. That's gone really well. I'm pleased about that. I thought there was going to be bit of bending going on there. But now it's straight. Well, as straight as I can make it. It might even have been straighter than it left the factory, for all I know. But it's definitely as straight as it needs to be. If it's out at all, it's out by, a hair's width. There we go. Now, I don't really need to put it back on the bike, because it's just another thing to waggle around and whack me in the face when I'm least expecting it. But we've come this far, and there's no way we're going home until I've seen that on there, moving around. We'll do that. This probably won't be the final reassembly anyway, but I want to know if it works. We all want to know if it works, or whether there's been a total disaster. Right, so lower ball race. So in reverse order, got the top race guide. And the nut's going to pull it down anyway. Then we have the grease seal. Dust cap. I'm just going to go and straighten that out in the vise. So I've made it round again, but I wonder if Hitchcock's going to do me a new one. I mean, all it is a cover, so we can apply pressure to the top of the dust seal and the bearing race. It's not a fine finish engineering part. It's just a little bit of bent tin. And on top of there is the upper race nut. The one with all the nice fine threads. Probably so it's very easy to do an adjustment, because the difference between crushing its balls and then being just right is a fraction of a millimetre really, so you want a lot of adjustment on the nut. So I've just nipped that up, and we'll try this action. It's nice and smooth, and it's not hitting the cables. There's no notchiness. Obviously, now that tension is set, you can put the top yoke on. And when that clamps, as well as tightening this on, once the forks are in, that nut is effectively locked. There we go. One more step to getting it working again. I'm glad that's sorted. That was one of the last question marks about whether the bike was going to be okay and not too much of a problem to put together. But no, I'm pretty happy about that. A little shopping list of things to get. Again, need those forks, sort levers. Oh, there's lots of things, isn't there? So, time to go home, have tea, get on the eBay, see what we can find. And there we go. Thanks very much for watching and all your support. It's always great to hear from you. And thanks very much. So please like and subscribe if you want to, just to see how the horrors unfold. And I'll see you again next week, I hope.